Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to Eastern Shore Talk, your podcast for all things self care and movies. If it's your first time joining us, welcome. We're glad to have you. We are now on episode 26, so we're over that halfway point to that magic 50 episodes point that we're so striving to get to. And I am Jay Watson.
And I'm Cathy Castle.
And Kathy and I are going to kind of go back to basics a little bit tonight and kind of do something we call self care 101 and kind of talk about some tricks and tools we can all use when we're kind of going through a tough time or maybe are slacking or behind in some self care things. Just some easy, quick, simple things to kind of get us back on track with our
I
self
call
care.
it when you fall off the wagon, when you fall off the self care wagon, how to pick
Yes.
yourself up and get back on. That's
Yep.
what I'm saying.
Yep. Tips and tricks to kind of get back on the good the straight and narrow, so to
Or
speak.
maybe life has kicked us off the wagon, kicked us right off
Yeah.
the wagon.
And before we get into that, we're going to do a little check-in time
Yeah.
and yeah, and kind of see what we've been doing here the past week or so. So, what's been going on, Kathy?
Listen, that Labor Day weekend wore me out. It wore me out so bad I had to go get a massage today. I'm just going to admit why my hair looks a little greasy because I just came right in from self care. But we had there wasn't one relaxing part of our holiday weekend. Nothing. And sometimes that's what we do to ourselves, Marty and I. But we had a really nice dinner Friday night with colleagues who treated, thankfully, at Bass Rouge, the upscale French restaurant in town here in Easton.
Is that a Prager restaurant?
Yeah. And
Okay.
let me tell you, I don't think I've ever been waited on like that my entire life. Even my purse had its own chair. um, yeah, so that was really they do a great job with hospitality in that restaurant. So we did that Friday night, and then Saturday a bunch of high school friends got together and their kids, and we had a nice cookout. That was great to see people, like really great to see people. And then where does that put us? Sunday we had a family cookout.
Okay.
So that was good. And then yesterday was just, getting back on track. The things you have to do, laundry, and poor Marty was
Yeah.
outside like all day because we've been doing a little deck project all summer. So
Gotcha.
yeah, that's our weekend. Lots of people, food.
So the traditional American Labor Day weekend.
I did not have a hot dog though. I did have a
Uh,
hamburger.
well, cookout. Cookout kind of encompasses all that. That's kind of
And
the.
somebody suggested, but I didn't try it. I should have. Hot dog with chili and coleslaw. I'd never heard of that. Have you
I've actually I've had that. It's good. It's really good.
really? I was skeptical.
Hmm.
I didn't try, but I was curious. I might have to go back to that later, another time.
I'm trying to remember where it was, but I had it was at let's see, it was somewhere in Annapolis or over the bridge. They kind
I
of
don't even know what it's called.
um
Slaw dog. Slaw dog.
was it maybe it was Annie Ann's.
Oh, but listen, I did hear that Joey Chestnut got to compete again over the holiday, and I was happy about it.
He
Did you hear
won.
about?
Yep, he won.
Because I was very saddened on the 4th of July when Joey Chestnut could not go for his goal.
Well, he beat Kobayashi, which Kobayashi's the
Yeah.
other famous
And he
hot dog
beat
eating
his
contest.
record.
Yeah,
Joey.
beat him pretty good. Yeah,
So I feel good about that. That's a highlight. I feel really good about that. Thank you. How about you?
gotcha. So yeah, this it was a weird, kind of a strange Labor Day weekend for me. Although it was only one extra day off, it felt like it was like forever. And normally, when we have like a holiday or an extended weekend, it goes by fast. This was the exact opposite. It was like
Vote for you.
I kept on thinking, "Oh wow, I got another day off work. I got another day. I got another day." I went to the gym 100 times. It seemed like. Of course, I did my Friday movie, um, and we were talking earlier. We had a conversation earlier today. I made my first
Oh
official homemade vegetable beef soup for the fall season, and I miss
I'm
that
gonna
so
have to try
much.
some of your soup. I'm gonna make chili for you to try. I'm
Okay,
gonna.
yeah, I enjoy cooking. I don't do anything super fancy, but I legitimately enjoy cooking.
You need
I've
some
tried
good ingredients, Jay.
I've tried to do chili myself, and it did not turn out very well at all. There's probably something significant that I'm skipping or missing, so I don't do a chili. I do
Like
vegetable beef
chili.
soup is kind of my go-to.
You like
I
chili.
do I do I love chili.
Well, then we got to fix that. We got to correct that.
I'll do like a homemade goulash instead of a chili, and I'll do that all year round. Um, all kind of chick like chicken casserole dishes and tuna casserole dishes and that kind of thing. I do that all the time. That's
Um,
pretty common for me. But it's just something about like a good homemade vegetable beef soup. And I've been eating on. I made such a big pot. I've been eating on it since
potato or no
practice.
potato? Potatoes in it?
Potatoes and egg noodles both.
What about turnips? Turnips is a good thing in that kind of
I
stuff.
do not do turnips, but I'm considering adding carrots because I do corn,
Yes, you have
peas.
carrots. You can't
I
not
do
do carrots.
well. I might add those next time. I do
You add
corn, peas. What's that?
it's sweet. It makes it sweeter.
Yeah, I do corn, peas, string beans, lima beans, diced tomatoes, lots of pepper. I do a salt substitute because I got a high blood pressure issue, so I kind of do
Mm.
a salt substitute. And I do the cubed beef, the stew meat. I do tomato potatoes, and then at the end I add egg noodles to kind of thicken it up just a little bit. I like a thicker soups that are on the thicker side. So I ate it today for lunch, and I ate it today when I got home for dinner. So I've had it the last 3 or 4 days, and I'm almost out. I might freeze the rest of it just like at
Yeah,
some time. I'm just craving it. I don't need a snack. I can just pop it in the microwave or
pull
whatever.
it out on a good day.
But man, it's so good. I take bread and butter, and I dip it in the juice first, and I like au jus.
You
But
know,
it
I'm
just
hungry. I don't know why you're talking about all this food. I'm like really hungry.
oh man, it was so good. And it's something about it reminds me of my grandmother's soup. It's
Oh
just
yeah,
how it smells, and I don't know, just something.
back to childhood.
Yeah, it reminds me of that. Even the kind of pot, just a plain old
Oh
stainless
yeah,
steel big soup pot is all I use. It's just something about it. Like when football season starts, because
yeah.
college started this past weekend, so I'm like, okay, even though it's still 80 degrees outside, I'm going to make me a pot of soup, and man, ah, that was some good eating.
See, my kids during football games like the chili on top of the nachos, like
Oh
a
yeah, 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 yeah. I used to chili dogs were kind of my go-to back in the day when we were rolling the bowl or leaving yesteryears late at night. I'd go to 7-Eleven and get a chili dog.
You want me to give two of my chili secrets up? I'll give three of
Sure,
my chili
sure.
secrets up. I have I don't measure anything, but and I throw all kinds of things in it, but it must have those. I told you about it earlier. There's San Marzano, if I'm saying it correctly, tomatoes.
Uh huh.
This is gonna sound weird. Ready? Unsweetened cocoa powder.
Okay.
That sounds weird, right? A little bit of better than bouillon chicken
Okay.
and carrots.
Okay.
Would you think any of those are in chili? Now, there's other things I put in there besides that.
Now the one the cocoa powder was the one that I have not heard before. The other ones are not crazy. They're not they're ridiculously unusual. But the cocoa powder,
There's no Eye of Newton or Wing of Bat, but
right? I think there's something about I don't do the beans right or something that it just that's why mine doesn't work out.
I only use dark kidney beans
Right. And
personally.
I don't mind a little bit of heat, like a little bit of spice, but I can't do real spicy. I just
I
with
don't
anything.
I don't want to have to go get the Tums afterwards. No,
Yeah.
I
But
don't want to.
I love chili if it's done right. And good gosh, I've had a million people's different kind of chili.
Because
Um,
everybody's different. Every single person.
yeah, everybody kind of does their little twist. I've had turkey chili that's been good. Yeah. So yeah, we'll have to do something. We'll do a some kind of event over the holidays, an Easter Shore talk get together since most of your boys have been on, and we'll all have chili or something. And I'll bring soup, and we'll have a soup and chili.
Soup and chili. Yeah,
soup and chili day or something. Just an Eastern Shore talk soup and chili day.
I'll try it, and everybody can watch our faces.
So yeah, that's kind of that's been that's our check in. Um, kind of typical Labor Day weekend stuff on the Eastern Shore, Maryland. But what we want to get into primarily today is what we're going to call self care 101.
Yeah.
And we all have times where we kind of start slacking or we get lazy or a life event happens and we, self care kind of gets shoved to the side for a little while. And Cathy and I are going to talk about some tools and tricks to kind of help get us all back on track a little bit. And we're going to kind of go. We have two different approaches to this.
Yeah.
I'm going to let Cathy go on her article. Imagine that.
Article.
And
Look, I'm not looking at the computer. I printed it because I thought I'd be somewhere else.
oh,
I
okay.
love my articles. I just
Yep,
love them. They make me happy. They're self care. Articles are self care.
absolutely.
Anyway, I wanted to talk about this topic because I think we're all very different about self care. Some better than others, obviously. Even Jay and I are different. Jay
Yep,
is a lot more routine and regimented. Am I saying that right? And
yep.
I fall off the wagon, get back on, climb on, kicked off, whatever. I don't stay consistent, and sometimes I beat myself up a little bit with like, darn it, why didn't I keep that habit? Or I should have stuck with that. Why didn't I stick with that? And something's calling now on my watch. It says healthcare.
It's a reminder. There you go.
we're not
There's a
doing
tool.
we're not
There's a
doing
trick.
healthcare right now. Um, so I don't know. I feel like sometimes when I get in a rut and I abandon everything that's healthy for me, and then I start trying to fix everybody else or trying to do a million things, and then I'm like, I don't have time to deal with me and what I should do. Or maybe sometimes I struggle with maybe I think I do it sometimes struggle with thinking it's selfish. I know it's not selfish to do self-care, but I think sometimes if I have too many tasks or too many tragedies going on around me, that I feel like, well, great, if I stop and take care of myself, then I'm going to be way behind. And so
Right.
anyway, but it's kind of ridiculous thinking for myself. And so I was thinking the other day, when that happens to me or anybody else, really, what is the basic bottom line that we have to do to get back centered on the right track? Because you and I have talked about a million kind of ideas for self care, from, as easy as your regular routines of, watching streaming shows or me drinking my hot tea or whatever, which probably are basic habits that we do have at this point. But, then there's other fun things like you just talked about football. Maybe people want to get into the habit of watching their favorite team and making their favorite chili or whatever. But that is something to do. That is
Yes.
something else to add. Although I would argue that that's a great thing to add, watching football and eating your favorite foods.
Yep.
But because one, it could be connection, it could be, nourishing your body in a different way. Maybe you're being creative with good food and not boxed ultra processed food. We talked to Jay and I had a whole conversation about that earlier.
Yep.
But basics. So if you've fallen this article, I would say this article really divides things into three steps. I think at absolute minimum, if you've fallen into a bad rut, it's called sleep, eating, and movement. So if you've lost your way and you don't even know which end is up, getting the right amount of sleep. So I'm literally going to read what this says about sleep. Not getting the right amount of sleep will not only make you obviously we're tired, we don't get enough
Hmm.
sleep, but it has ill effects on decision making, focus, and emotional health.
Yep.
So not only are you tired, but you may not be aware about it, but your decision making could be off. Maybe you're having a harder time focusing on something,
Yep.
and emotionally, maybe you're a little off. And it may
Hmm.
not be you that recognizes it, it may be the people around you that
Yep.
recognize.
Yep.
So, get back, whatever's gotten you off track with your sleeping, get back on track with some good habits. Maybe, I hear some people say that they can't have it's not good for them. They have trouble sleeping if they drink caffeine after a certain time. Me personally, caffeine does not affect me. It is the most bizarre thing, but
Me neither.
other people can't drink it after 2 p.m. or they're up all night. But whatever habits, like maybe it's a certain kind of acidic food that bothers you, and then you have this indigestion. Whatever, just figure out what the good habits are for you. And I'm looking at my phone right until I drop off. That doesn't bother me either, but some of the screen time can affect people. So whatever you need to do to get your sleep patterns back in, you need to make your bedroom colder. You need to make it darker. Do you need to have a fan noise? What do you need to get that back on track?
Yeah.
And then eating, Jay and I talked about this earlier. When we say maintain a healthy diet, we're not necessarily saying, hey, shame on you for, sucking in 2 of those Bay Country donuts this morning. We had those at work today, and I don't feel bad about it at all. I had one, but I did have other things. Um, we're not saying you have to be so strict with your diet that, just go eat lettuce and tofu. What we're saying is, one, make sure you're eating. I have plenty of friends and family when they get stressed, they stop eating. And it's like,
Right.
listen, I know that you probably don't feel like it and you're just out of sorts, but you got to put some protein in there and, stay hydrated. We forget to
Yes.
drink
Yes.
water when we're in a mess. Hydrate yourself because dehydration is just can make us a mess. But
Yep.
what I would ask you about maintaining a healthy diet is make sure you eat and you're not ignoring eating. And, just try to have some whole kind of foods. I'm a big believer in whole foods. Don't take everything you eat out of a box.
Right.
Please just do that for me. And then the third major thing, so evaluate your sleep. If you're in a bad way and your sleeping is off, what's going on? What do I need to adjust there? What am I doing about food? Am I off what food my body does like and work best off? And am I moving? Really, it says do physical activity. And I don't want everybody to think that, oh, now I got to go have an exercise routine. I got to do 20, push ups and a plank for a minute and run 2 miles. That Jay may do that and he's good at that. But I'm not good at that. What I'm saying is move your body in some way.
Yes. Yep.
Like yesterday, for example, we went for a 4 mile bike ride, just, spontaneously. Just do something, whether it's walking your dog. You said you were talking about that earlier, or doing maybe some stretching at home. So start with those to get yourself back clear, more clear. I do have more. I don't know if you want to jump in at any point here, Jay.
Well, once you got all done, I was gonna kind of touch on all the ones you talked about. So
All
keep
right.
on going.
So I fell off the wagon of self care. Now what I've done is I'm trying to get my sleep back on track. I'm trying to eat a little better, and I'm trying to move a little more. Once I got that handled, now the next thing I would like for people to do, from and this article outlines it perfectly, is add in something you enjoy. We forget that we have to be kinder to ourselves. And you guys know what it is. Rather, it's a book that you're a reader. Um, you like to go for a little hiking in nature, or there's some kind of place that you want to drive to and go. You guys know that's what you like. Rather, I enjoy sunsets and sunrises. Find, what those things are. Find them and do it again. Start slowly adding them back in. Relaxation. We forget that we need to make time to relax. I read another article saying, I don't know why we think we should be rewarded for being a workaholic. It's really not, the space we should be in. That's great that you're a workaholic, that you have such a strong work ethic. But if you're so darn tired from working so much,
Yeah.
what is that doing to all the relationships around
Balance.
you? And
Yeah.
yeah, the balance. So, what is it that you need to do to relax? Is it just plopping on the couch and watching your favorite streaming? Is it prayer? Is it meditation? Is it yoga? Is it baking? Um, Walking? Whatever. Deep breathing. So, how do you need to center yourself and relax? Find some things that you enjoy, and then figure out some goals again. When you're in a bad way, I feel like the tasks start piling up, piling up, piling up. And then you're like, oh my gosh, there's not enough hours in the day, not enough days in the week. So what is it that you absolutely have to get done? You know what I mean? Is it like the first of the month is coming and you need to pay the whatever bill, or there's a stack of magazines that you haven't read? Maybe you just need to throw those magazines away and don't be stressed out that there's four of them there and just start
Hmm.
all over again. Whatever. Maybe you have some laundry you want to catch up on. Maybe you need to say no to somebody. I'm a yes person, and I feel guilty if I say no, but maybe you need to practice that. But sometimes if you can get a little more organized and check off some things, then you're starting to feel a little better again. That feels like you're taking care of yourself and your priorities. So that's that. Then I go into the third phase. Focus what you did well on. I want to read this whole paragraph. At the end of your day, think about what you've been able to get done, not what's still left to do. I always have to get on Marty about this one because he'll do a million things, work for 6 hours outside, and then say, "Oh, I didn't weed, I didn't whatever," and I'm like, "Stop!" Or I
Yeah,
didn't walk. I'm like, "Don't do it." Recognize thoughts that are negative or unhelpful, and refocus them in a positive way. Take time to practice gratitude and write down or think about what you're thankful for. I think that is such a great paragraph.
yeah,
I like to practice a daily win, and sometimes it is a hard struggle for me. Like, what's a daily win today? And I'm like, I got nothing. I'm like, okay, Kathy, write down something because I have
yeah,
a journal or a planner that I write a daily win in. And then the last thing is connect with people. Connect with, it could be in person. You could have a phone call. People nowadays Zoom one another, but family, friends, just engage in other people with other people because connection is something that can really make us feel better. So there it is, three stages. You've abandoned all your self care and you feel like you're a hot mess. Work on your sleeping, eating, and movement first. Then let's work on some things you enjoy and how to relax. Let's make some goals and priorities again. Be thankful. Think about what you're thankful for. Compliment yourself. Don't just tear yourself down and connect with people. There you go. There it is.
so yeah, a lot of what you said is kind of overlaps into what I was going to go into um, with my approach. But to kind of touch on a couple of things you talked about, sleep. It might be in the in the physical fitness end of things. Having been a personal trainer
Yeah.
in a previous life, it might be the most neglected part of physical fitness that there is. Um,
Do you think
whether
that people that say that they only need 4 hours of sleep, do you think that's fact?
it no,
I don't either.
they've convinced themselves that because they it's the chasing the workaholic, chasing that brass ring kind of mentality. Um, just physiologically, your body needs 7 to 9 hours of sleep every night.
I agree.
Yeah, there might be a night here or there where you get less. So then maybe later in the week you might get a little bit more. But on average, 7 to 9 hours. I'm good. I've kind of my sweet spot is 7 hours. So I've
Me
kind of
too.
and if I get more, great. Um, and that's kind of as I've gotten older, I've found that I need less sleep. Strangely enough, seven's kind of my sweet spot.
I've heard
But
people say that, and I've heard people say more.
um, but yeah, because here's the thing: our body goes through so many processes while we're asleep that we're completely unaware of. And in the physical fitness world, the number one thing is we burn more fat while we're asleep than any other time.
Well, I need like a 15-hour night.
Because what happens is while we're up and about moving, our body is our muscles are we're walking and talking and moving, and so are all these other processes. Our lungs are breathing to fulfill whatever activity we're doing. Our heart's pumping, raises in rate to do to keep up, and so we're
Hmm.
doing all these things. We kind of are in hibernation for 7 to 9 hours. So what happens is our body says, okay, I don't. There's no brain function really going on, or little brain function, so I can use some of that energy, and some of our heart rate lowers, our lungs, our oxygen um, productivity slows, so the body is now able to do something else that has energy to do. So it burns fat. Believe it or not, we burn calories while we're awake, but we burn fat specifically way more while we're asleep than we do when we're awake. And
I feel
that
like the little elves come out when we're sleeping, and then they fix things,
with
cells.
the little like the little mining tools in there.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Like, here we go. Let's
Hi
fix.
ho, hi ho. Yep. So
And
yeah,
then
there's
I track my sleep. I don't know if you're a tracker, but like
I don't.
I make sure that my Apple Watch is, charged enough to get me through the night. And every single morning, I don't know why I do it. Maybe it sounds a little OCD-ish, but I look every morning at how much sleep I got, how much deep sleep I got. And then I feel cheated sometimes. I'm like, what happened that night? Why was I blah, 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 waking up? Or
Right.
why did I only have 20 minutes of deep sleep? What's going on? I mean, I don't really have a reason sometimes, but I am tracking it and think, I got to do better. Maybe I need to go to bed a little earlier or adjust. I like sleep data.
Yeah, and just to put it in very simple layman's terms, we're kind of refilling the gas tank for the next day, or we're if we're doing it consistently, we're keeping that gas tank fueled,
Yeah.
so we can get through whatever. It's just and look, insomnia. I used to have terrible,
Yeah.
stress and trauma and all those kind of things. Anxiety is the enemy of a good night's sleep. It's so hard. That's a whole different avenue. Insomnia. Those are probably the leaders of insomnia.
Did you find anything that helped you necessarily when you had that?
I didn't. I see, Kathy. It took me so long to realize what I was struggling with.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it really, I didn't really
You
start
didn't have like a
understanding.
magic sleep trick.
No, not for most of my life. I just kind of became accustomed to um, very sporadic sleep. I've always been one that when I decide I'm going to sleep, I fall asleep very quickly. Very seldom do I have trouble falling asleep.
Hmm.
But prior to the past 5 years or so, I would fall asleep and I would sleep for an hour, 90 minutes, and I'd wake up and I'd go to the bathroom and I'd sleep for an hour, wake up. It would be
The
off and
cycle,
on.
you literally
Yes,
wake up.
all night long, just like that. But I would have to take naps throughout the week to kind of catch
Really?
up because I would just be wore out. It
Yeah.
just, it's not sustainable. Um, but I found as I've kind of sorted my life out and the fog has lifted and the the clouds have cleared, that my sleep is so much better. Again, I fall right to sleep, and it's very fun. It's my OCD even happens in my sleep because I will fall asleep at like 12:30, like clockwork, and I will sleep until 3:30, like clockwork. Get up, go to the bathroom, go right back to sleep, and then sleep until it's time for me to get up. So I'll only most nights I'll get up one time instead of four or five, but it's always in that same window every single time. Very rarely will I sleep all the way through to my alarm. And very rarely does my alarm wake me up. I'll roll over and it might be 20 minutes before my alarm goes off. I'll just turn it off because 20 minutes is not going to do anything for me. Now, if it's an hour, hour and a half, then I'll go back to sleep. But
And out here,
um,
some people have bad sleep because they have sleep apnea, and of course, I think they've
yes,
gotten better with the CPAP kind of devices.
well
And then
now there's like things you can do that are not CPAP, that are not mechanical devices that they're getting more and more with that. So
yeah,
yeah,
because
um,
that can really wreck somebody.
sure. So sleep is vital. Um, Food, and we're going to have a specific episode
Yeah.
just about food somewhere down the line because I think food's a tricky and complicated, yet it's very obviously it's very important for nourishment, but it's more to it than that. We're going to get into that as its own episode, but um, just real quick, some tips on that. Make sure you eat within an hour of waking up because what happens is if you don't eat within an hour of waking up, your body will then start breaking down muscle, the protein and muscle to use as energy instead of carbohydrates in what you're eating.
Somebody told me that the other day. Somebody said they practice eating something with protein within a half an hour of getting up. And I
Right.
thought, how many people, and I personally, it may be an hour, hour and a half. I might not be hit. Maybe I need to back it up a little bit more, but because I'll eat a Cliff Bar that has a lot of protein in it. I don't know if
Right.
it's the best thing to eat, but that's just what I've done and has worked for me. But I know so many people that skip breakfast.
Yeah, that's that's really not unless you're in a fasting cycle,
Yeah.
or if you're doing a specific like Friday mornings. I'll get up early and go to the gym before I eat, and I'll do fasted cardio. In other words, I won't have anything in my stomach when I'm on the treadmill at the gym, but I'll eat
Mhm.
right after I'm done. If you're in a fasting cycle, that's different. But I tell
I'm
people,
knowledgeable.
I mean, that's the personal trainer coming out of me. Even if you just eat like a piece of fruit, a banana, or
Yeah.
a breakfast bar or something. It doesn't. You don't have to have this big, huge, eggs and bacon. You don't have to have a huge breakfast. Um,
Well, and
breakfast
sometimes some of the breakfast stuff can be very carb loaded and sugary, and it'll crash you in
now,
90 minutes.
well, the carb, if it's high in carbs, that's the one meal you can get away with it because, like I said, your body prefers to use carbs as energy. That's what it wants to use. So if you give it carbs right off the bat when you're first starting to get up and about, that's when you can kind of get away with going a little bit heavier on the carbs. Um, and on the other end of it, it's always a good idea to not eat within 2 hours of going to sleep. If you know
We're bad
roughly what
about
time, if you know roughly what time you're going to go to bed. Like for me, it's I use midnight as my gauge, so I don't eat anything after 10 o'clock at
that.
all. I'll I'll have a bottle of water or one of my iced teas next to my bed just in case
Yeah.
I'm dry mouth in the middle of the night, and I'll just take a
I
sip of
have it
that.
at work. I have it in the middle of the night. Yeah.
Yep, but don't eat anything within because you're not burning anything while you're sleeping, so it's just going to
Yeah.
sit there. It's just going to be like blip, this big whatever it is. Try not to eat within
I
yeah,
love
try not to eat within 2 hours of going to bed. But we'll get really into the whole self care of food, and it's complicated in its own episode down the line. Um, yeah, for me, um, as far as like tricks to kind of get back on track, the saying that I came out with is it, and you and I have talked about this is with self care, do the things that remind you of who you are. In other words, like you were talking about earlier, find those activities that you just love to do that kind of are, kind of they kind of symbolize who you are. Um,
But I've heard people say, I'm so busy as a mom, or I'm so busy at work, or I'm so busy with what's going on in my life. I have almost forgotten what what I like, what would be good for me to do. You know what I mean? I think
right.
there's people like that. So I guess for them, it would be an exercise first. I would think of pausing and just maybe even writing some things down. We've talked about that before.
Yeah.
What do
Those
you?
people who, for whatever reason, legitimate or not, are having trouble scheduling that kind of stuff. It's more important for those people to journal than not. I mean, anybody can get something out of journaling for sure,
Yeah,
but journaling you can kind of track, even if it's
for a
unintentional.
little while, right? Even if it's just for a period to get you back on track.
Yeah, you can kind of see. And like I tell people all the time, for a week, write down from the time you wake up to the time you go to bed. Write down literally every single thing you do. You'll at the exact time you do those things. You'll find little windows, even if they're 20 minutes here and there.
Hmm.
But what also, like you were talking about, take those small victories. Be proud of something you accomplished that day. Whatever, however, you'll see that on your journal. I did X, Y, and Z, and you can put little check marks or circle them or do whatever.
A
So
time. Gosh, we used to call it something at work. I can't even think of what it was, but like when you write down, when you're trying to find more efficiencies in your day, for
yes,
example, you write down exactly what you do, and then you're like, I probably could have done something here or shortened
yeah.
that here.
Or you'll find things you can remove and then put self care in its place. We
Yeah,
no matter how busy we are, we all have those times, and it may not be every day, but it'll be times throughout a lot of days where you'll see, oh well, shoot, I didn't do much of anything for 45 minutes here.
yeah,
I can I can take the dog for a walk, and that gets your movement in. But the dog's got to go for a walk anyway, so it's not like you're putting in something that's not required, you're having to walk the dog no matter what, or you should be for the betterment of the dog. So you're that's
Pet care. Pets
yeah,
don't.
but you're getting that movement in. And I know you and I were talking earlier about how so many people, and one of them is the person that I'm talking to on this podcast right now,
Boy.
is allergic to exercise. So
I'm allergic
um,
to the word exercise, but I like movement. I will use movement.
right. Um,
You and your
and
gym
look,
rats.
look, I know I'm an extreme in that regard. That's really
Well,
part of what makes me who I am.
you, you, Jay, and how many men are in my house? Five.
Yep.
At least three of them. At least three of them, I will tell you, are like that too. If they don't get to the gym, they are like, I can see it. It's like they need it.
Yeah.
Now, me and at least one or two of my other kids, we're not necessarily like that. But some of you need it. Like, need it.
But here's the thing, Kathy, and we talk about double dipping all the time. And movement, exercise, whatever terminology we want to use,
Yeah.
is the biggest double dip that there is. And I'll tell you why. Because exercise does more for your mental health than it will ever do for your physical health. And I learned that as I got older. So,
Yeah.
in the mind, body, soul trilogy, you're hitting two birds with one stone. So there is no, I mean, look, and it doesn't, you don't have to go to a fancy gym and you don't have to spend multiple hours upon hours upon hours. You can do 20, 30 minutes here and there. You can take a walk around your neighborhood. You can,
Watch a
um,
watch a exercise video, like a dance video or something.
yeah. And I tell you, there was a woman that I speak to in the gym every once in a while, and she works in the mental health field. And she says she bought a walking pad, not a whole treadmill, but it's just a walking pad.
Huh.
And she'll be Zooming or talking with clients and is walking on her pad. And even if it's under
So
her
when she's
desk, where
sweating, she got to be like, sorry.
even
Walk.
if it's just under her desk where she's still sitting down, but she's
Yeah.
moving her legs, just kind of, you're raising your heart rate slightly. You're kind of getting the blood flow going. You're helping to release toxins. It's very low impact. It's very easy. It's not difficult. And she said most of the time they don't even know that I'm doing it because it's underneath her desk and she's just moving her legs as she's talking on the phone or on the computer, whatever. Um, Simplest things. Take a walk on the beach if you live close to the water. And there's all kind of beaches around here. Go walk, take a look, walk around the beach and look for sea glass or whatever. And
Yeah.
you're kind of
Be a great thing
you're
to do every day. I wish I
you're
did
get
could do
you're
that.
getting outside. You're getting your vitamin D. You're out in nature, walking along the water, and you're moving. Your movement. Um,
All your senses are well when you're walking or outside. I think when you're walking, your senses are just you hear birds, you can smell,
Flowers.
rain
Yep.
or fly. Yeah, and it's just good for centering.
But use a journal and write down. Before you start to actually journal each day, make a list of those things that you just absolutely love to do, and forget whether you have time to do them or not. Just in your mind, write that list of 10 things or 12 things to say, if I had all the time in the world, these are the things I would just love to do. And once you start journaling and you kind of see those little pieces of
Time
time,
study. That's what I was trying to think of. Do a time study.
yeah. And I'm telling you, you're probably already doing them already. Whether it's sitting and watching a movie with your kids, having a family movie night, or
Family dinner.
family game night, or if you've got young kids, going out and playing with your kid on the jungle gym in your backyard or on the swing set or whatever. Those are, you're kind of hitting all the bases there.
Yeah.
Movement, the family connection time, you're outside. It can be,
Yay,
whether
we
it's,
connected. You and I connected at a young age on the jungle gym. I can remember us
yep,
spending.
at Mount Pleasant.
Yeah.
Yep. And,
See, I used to go to the gym called Mount Pleasant.
but yeah, just, do those things that remind you who you are because we all, Now, some of us might have similar interests, in, or whatever. But if you're a movie nut, you don't have to go to the movies, and you can sit at home. You can be, not that I would really recommend this for the connection side of things, but you can maybe watch a movie on your phone while you're cooking dinner or whatever, and then once you
Mhm.
sit down to dinner, have that connection time. Then um, it can be done. I think that people part of what gets us in a rut is uh, um, we convince ourselves that it's easier to not add something else into our life, and that
And then some people may make the people they love feel guilty. You know, if there's
yeah,
somebody in the house, you live with other people in the house, somebody may feel like you should be helping do something, or if you do that,
yeah,
that's
or you're
you're.
taking away time with them, or yeah,
So some people may deal with that.
yeah, and that whole dynamic is legitimate. Because I'm not again. I want to make sure I'm saying this. I'm
Yeah,
not saying neglect anybody in your family at all.
right.
Um, I'm
Tell
saying
people what you need. Tell people what you
yes,
feel about it.
find a way to do them together.
Yeah,
And but I think we all and look, if you've got a newborn child, that's your attention span, your attentiveness outside of that child is going to be different than if you've got kids your age, Kathy.
yeah,
The kid, it's just you know your kids probably disappear for half a day, and
yeah,
they can take care of themselves. It's different. It's just different. Um, but yeah, just remind yourself of those things, and you might already be doing them, and just revisit those things because there's not. You'll find that there's not this mental effort, mental motivation to have to do those things because you enjoy doing them anyway.
right.
You're probably doing them, even if not completely regularly. You're at least doing them somewhat regularly to some degree. Um, but list those things and then start seeing with that journaling. Um, remind yourself of the little victories like you were talking about, and find the times that you maybe didn't realize that you had that you really do. And if you can, if you're an empty nester and maybe someone else who's an empty nester, do come together and
Yeah,
you're hitting the connection part of that the self care, but yet you're also maybe you go walk the rails to trails together, um, or whatever, play cards with a friend or whatever. Um, just kind of get back to the not so daunting things that you enjoy, and then you can kind of spread your wings and try new things. And
yeah.
if maybe you've been neglecting in the exercise side of things, once you've kind of gotten back into some self care of other types, then take the next step and do some maybe more time consuming and more labor intensive things. You
Mhm.
know, yes, they're more labor intensive and they're harder. They just are physically, especially, but they're important. Exercise, movement, whatever you want to call it. Um, it just, I, the exercise and the sleep part kind of go hand in hand because what's going to happen is if you're consistent with doing things, movement and stuff like that, you'll find that you're going to fall asleep quicker than than you have
Be
been
more tired,
previously.
right?
Yeah, it's just like with a young child. If you keep them active long enough, man, they're gonna fall right to sleep, probably before you want them to. And we're not much different, even as adults. It's just yeah, just find those, just remember those things that you love to do, and even if it's at first just kind of squeezing them in for 15 or 20 minutes here and there, and then expanding and then realizing some things that we can kind of move around. And if I go back to this all the time. If we care enough about us, we'll find the time, even if it means we have to get up 15 or 20 minutes earlier to go for a walk or, whatever. Use your lunch break at work. And I see ladies around town all the time that at lunchtime, you'll see, when the weather's nice, you'll see people walking in town that work in town walking all the time.
Yeah, that's nice.
Um, and maybe they're eating an apple, or they're eating something while they're taking their lunch break to do that. That's perfect. You're double dipping.
Yeah.
Um, you're
You might
triple
be
dipping
triple
actually.
dipping. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
triple
You're
dip.
getting up. I mean,
Uh,
it's lunchtime. You got to eat.
I feel
Um,
like it's an Olympic sport. We just invented the triple dip. We have to
triple dip.
really we have to talk about that
It's
more.
like a Simone Biles gymnastics move.
Yes,
It's now
triple
it's now
dip.
called the triple dip.
We need to define that. The triple dip of self care. That we'll have to define that another time. We'll have to think
Or is
about
that or is that when we go to the ice cream shop and get a whole lot of ice cream? We get a triple dip.
yeah.
So yeah, sleep. Get your sleep right. Sleep is important. 7 to 9 hours. With your food, eat within an hour of waking up. Don't eat within 2 hours of going to bed. Um, try to stay away from the processed stuff. Stay away from the artificial sweeteners if you can.
Yes. Yes.
Um, unless you're someone like Dylan who has a specific sugar related
Yeah, but
health issue.
even with him, he's being a type 1 diabetic. I initially went like wild in the house and was like replaced everything. Everything had to be sugar free, and then I started researching more and thinking more about it. I'm like, I'm just when you go sugar free, you're kind of making the content of stuff, the fat content goes up in food, and
Right,
I'm putting a lot more chemicals in his body that he probably
right,
doesn't need. So then I threw that all out the window and went back to more whole foods and watching the sugar. So I mean,
yeah,
we all know that there's 10 teaspoons of, or maybe not everybody knows, there's 10 teaspoons of sugar in a Coke.
right.
So maybe you don't have Coke every day. Maybe you
I
have Coke once
yeah,
a week. I don't know.
I used to tell people this. I said a good rule of thumb is don't eat the things that the human body is not designed to process. In other words, the human body is designed to process sugar up to a point.
Right.
Um, it's when it gets over that point when becomes unhealthy. The human body was not designed to process artificial anything. It can, and depending on who you are, there are people that smoke
Yeah.
all their lives and never have any adverse health effects. It's a case by case basis. But the fact is, the human body was not designed to process artificial anything. The body was not designed to process alcohol. That's why we consume it too much, we have such an adverse physical reaction, whether it's throwing up or the hangover, because the human body is not designed to process it. So don't eat the things that the human body's not been designed to process. It's I think we get so, and we'll touch on this with the food specific episode. We swing food so much into that social realm of our life that we forget the food is only and like just only designed to nourish us. That's it. It's not designed for anything else. But people emotionally eat, and people use food as the basis for socializing, and food has become these other things that it's not supposed to be, and
And
that's yeah,
we've made ourselves so busy that and marketing is capitalized on busy
yeah.
humans, and
Convenience, yeah. They market the
convenience.
convenience
So
of food.
if you
Pop,
can put a whole big meal in I mean, well, maybe we did it all along with the old tinfoil TV dinners. But I mean,
yep.
there's probably not one healthy thing in them. They're full of sodium and oh
Well, sodium is the biggest preservative that there is. That's why there's so many of those foods that are microwavable foods or whatever that are so high in sodium, because sodium is the cheapest and most readily available preservative that there is. Back in the day, when people would keep food in barrels, they would fill it with salt because it would preserve it. So that's kind of where that comes
my.
from. Um, yes, stay away from
You
the
know how many times I picked up a box at BJ's and I'm like, darn it, and I put it back. I'm like, that thing is a mess. That thing's a
yeah.
hot mess in that box.
I've really had to watch my sodium since I've been when I was diagnosed with high blood pressure, and it's
Yeah.
certainly much better than it was before, because I've probably cut out at least half, if not 2/3, of the sodium that I was
Mm.
before. Um, I was I still love me some sweet tea, but Monday through Friday, when I'm at work, I all I drink is water. From I drink orange juice with my breakfast, and I drink water literally Monday through Friday all day long. And
Me too.
I'll have a tea at dinner, or I'll probably have like a one or two teas between dinner and evening. But I've probably cut half to 2/3 of my sweet tea out, and that was
But
hard. That
everybody's
was
got the cups now. Just you fill it up with ice and water in the morning, and
yeah,
just carry it with you. Take it with
yeah.
you.
And you talked about hydrating earlier, and
Hmm.
our bodies, so many parts of our body is made up of water. So it's just
Yeah.
you can't drink too much water. The average adult should be drinking 64 ounces of water a day. Um, and I've got a water tracker on my phone, and I used to kind of plug in whenever I would finish
Yeah.
a bottle of water. I would add it to my list. I don't track it anymore. I don't drink 64. I'll be honest. I don't drink 64
Wow.
ounces a day. I probably drink.
Probably float away.
Um, I'm going to say I probably drink uh, 48 to 54 ounces. So I'm way better than I used to be because all those times during the day I wouldn't drink. The only time I previous to when I got diagnosed with high blood pressure, the only time I would ever drink water is at the gym, and I would drink water any
Really?
other time. Yep. And now I drink it all day at work. I drink it at the gym.
We're good about it in my house. I don't know why, but how about is it true that have you heard are you supposed to really start your day with a good amount of water too? Besides that what you said getting protein within the first half hour to hour. What about
I have heard to drink 8 ounces of water
yeah, to kind
when
of
you
kick
wake up.
like
Yeah,
you're like the Tin Man on Wizard of Oz. You need a little
because
oil before you get going.
your body is kind of trying to flush those oxidants, the bad stuff out of your body. That's one of the processes it does at night. So getting up in the morning and peeing and having a glass of water, it kind of helps.
There you go.
It's giving your kidneys that fuel to kind of keep flushing what it was supposed to be flushing. Right. So
Be kind to your
yes,
kidneys.
yep. Kidneys are a big deal. They're a really big deal. Um, yeah,
Yeah, and I didn't realize that they had until recently they have a part in blood pressure as well.
big time partner.
I
Yes,
didn't
very
realize that.
much so. Yeah.
So
Because think about it, it's your blood cleaner. Your kidneys clean your blood. It's a filter that it's so if if you're drinking alcohol regularly, you're because think about this. You heard of the blood alcohol content when you have a breathalyzer test or whatever. If you're if you're on a consistent basis, you have alcohol in your blood. The higher percentage obviously is worse. You're hindering your kidney's ability to filter out the blood in a regular way.
right, and that's what the doctors said for Dylan with the type 1 diabetes, because he's coming up on that age of peer pressure and drinking
Yep.
and the doctors are like, look, you'll be able to make your own decisions here soon, but you'll be 18, but where he may or may not listen to us as much. But she's like, your kidneys have to make a choice. What do you want it to do? Do you want it to filter for your diabetes or do you want to filter the alcohol? Like it
Yep.
comes down to those kind of functions.
Yep. Yeah. So yeah, that's a big deal. So yeah, do all those things, kind of get your stuff back on track. Remember those things that you love to do. List them. Start out just listing them. Even if you, in your mind, you think I don't have time for these things, list them anyway. That way, you've got a reference, and as you journal and you start kind of figuring out that there's more time in your schedule than you may think, even if there's small pieces of time, you can now fit those things you've listed into those spots. You can remove things that you don't need, and
Maybe list those daily wins too. Maybe you need to list
well,
them
that's
on,
part of what you journal. That's when I
right?
said that's part of your journaling. Say what you did. Whether hey, I was able to go for a walk for 20 minutes, or even those things might be little, but if you're doing those little things consistently, it adds up. And
Yeah.
now all of a sudden, you're now you're perpetuating that positive cycle of you're feeding the positive mindset consistently. So now that self esteem, that strong sense of self that I talk about, is now up here, and we're feeding it constantly with all these things that we're doing for the overall us, the mind, body, and soul. And just like with anything, the more you do it, the easier it becomes because it becomes second nature, and it's no longer what you do; it's who you are. That's the goal, to get to a point where it's like it's no longer what you do; it's who you are. I
And if you do
am.
better, your relationships might be better too. You know?
Yeah, yeah. Well, absolutely. The relationship with ourself affects all the others,
Yeah.
and not only that, but it affects so many of the big life choices we make. And the to get to a better relationship with ourself, self care builds that strong sense of self, and that's when your relationship with yourself flourishes. So now all these things outside of you as an individual flourish and benefit from you being having done self care consistently.
Yeah.
So self care, self care, self care.
Go
Go back to
sleep,
the
go
basics.
sleep, go eat, go, go,
Yep. Eat
go.
right. Yep.
Walk.
Connect with people. Get outside. Movement slash exercise, whatever you want to call it.
So don't
Yeah.
feel bad if you fall off the wagon.
No, we all, even I, as OCD as I am, and I've talked about this before. When I come back from my Ocean City trip every year, it takes me a minute to kind of get back into it because I'm so uh,
Relaxed.
I'm tunnel vision with whatever I'm doing. When it's time for me to go on vacation, I'm on vacation. So now I've gone a week, and people might think, well, that's nothing. It's just a week. But for Jay Watson, who almost never misses a day at the gym, to go a week and do nothing but get my steps in, because that's I do concentrate on getting my steps in up and down the boardwalk. It's like, wow, it was so much nicer being on vacation for this week. It takes me some doing to kind of get back in. I mean, I'll go, don't get me wrong, but it kind of takes me a while to get back in the
Yeah.
swing of things. Yeah. So find that thing like the movies are for me every Friday night that you know, it doesn't have to be 2 hours long. It could be whatever. But find that thing that reminds you of who you are, because the movies are such part of who I am at my core,
Mm-hmm.
and steer yourself in that direction of those things, and it becomes less like work and more like joy. Now your mindset, that one of those mindset shifters, um, and that's all part of taking care of yourself. So speaking of movies and Friday night, so this past Friday night I went and saw Alien Romulus, which is the latest installment in the Alien um, movie series, and it was pretty decent. It was had a little bit of a different plot to it, so I like that. It reminded me a lot of visually of the most recent Total Recall movie with Colin Farrell
Mm.
a while back. Um, so it was again, it was an average, nice solid average movie. It didn't knock my socks off, but it wasn't certainly not a bad movie. I'm glad I went. Um, and in streaming, it's getting so exciting for me
Yeah.
because Only Murders in the Building is tonight.
I need to try that show.
It's so good. Uh, Season 4, episode 2 is tonight. So once I get done here, I'm going to go watch that.
You're
Tomorrow
right.
night is tomorrow night is a new show I've been watching called Tell Me Lies. The season 2 premiere is tomorrow night, and then Thursday night, for all of you Lord of the Rings fans, the on Amazon Prime, a show called The Rings of Power, which is kind of, it shows you how the story got to where it was in the Lord of the Rings that we saw at the movies. So good. Um, they're just so true to those movies. Um, so that comes. They released the first 3 episodes last week, and I watched all 3 episodes right in a row. But episode 4 is Thursday night. So yeah, there's all September's a big premiere month for streaming. So yeah,
Nice.
I'm going to be tickled. Um,
Tickled.
so yeah, so you began to watch a new one.
Yeah.
Um,
So I'm like an old man. I'm all about unless I'm in a movie theater. If I'm in the movie theater, all the senses are alive. But if I'm at home and I start snuggling back and got the blankie, and then Marty, it's almost like Marty tries to catch me all the time. He'll be like, "What'd you think of that?" And I'm like, "Mm-hmm. Yeah, that was good." Yeah, no, no. And then he'll do another trick, and I'm like, "Yeah, you saw me. You know I fell asleep." So I watched a movie with Marty and some of the kids, and yeah, I probably watched 75% of it, not because it was bad, but I got this old man problem. So I'm gonna read you the description of this movie. It's called The Union, and it was
Uh
on
huh.
Netflix, and it's Halle Berry and Mark Wahlberg. So you got a cute guy and a cute girl, so you got something for
Yep.
everybody, right?
Yep.
Um, so here's the description of it. A construction worker is thrust into the world of espionage by an unexpected recruiter. His high school sweetheart, Mark Wahlberg, and Halle Berry, star in The Union, just came out. It's a bit of a spy thriller. I liked it. I liked what I saw of it, and then I had to have the recap from Marty about how it ended. But it was a good movie. I
Did
would.
it have a little bit of a comedy twist to it?
Uh,
No, I don't think I've seen. I don't think I. No, I've seen it listed on the queue on Netflix, but I've not seen any previews for it. So,
yeah, it was decent. It was decent, but
now I am looking forward this Friday to seeing Beetlejuice.
oh yeah.
And I've been trying to talk you into getting tickets because they were
No, I
almost
will
sold
see
out.
Beetlejuice. I will see that,
Yes,
and it will be seen in the movie theater. I just got to
absolutely.
decide which day I'm seeing that.
Yeah,
I know those tickets are going to fly off the shelf, and I may miss Friday.
yeah. So yeah, that's what I'm looking forward to it.
I
And
kind of want
then
to watch the old one because it's what? How many? It's like what?
36 years ago,
36.
so 1988. That's crazy. That's
That's
just,
real
just
crazy. Don't you
that's
think
wild.
there's gonna be have to be a third now? Don't you think?
Well, I would have never imagined there would have been a second one back in the
Really?
day.
My
I just
dad thinks it's gonna like blow the box office charts. He thinks,
I don't think it's gonna. It will probably be number one, but there's just very few movies that just are gigantic like Marvel,
yeah.
Avengers. There's just I don't know that we'll ever see that, and if it is,
No,
it's
it's
not.
Halloween coming, creeping in, and Beetlejuice is just iconic.
Yeah.
Might bring some. One of my kids was Beetlejuice for Halloween one time. Might bring those costumes back.
I think casting Jenna Ortega to play Winona Ryder's character's daughter because she's Wednesday Adams, and that's such the similar, very similar type of character. So, um, and yeah, everybody that I've watched talk when the actors have done their press tour about this, they're all
Come
tickled.
on,
And
you can't say it three times, so there's got to be a third now. If you did,
yeah,
we're in the land of sequels
Catherine O'Hara was talking in an interview when she got the script. The first thing she looked for was the Deo song
now.
to see if it was a scene,
Yeah,
and sure enough, there was. So she was really happy about that. So
yeah, this is gonna be good.
yeah, I'm really looking
You're
forward to it.
busy. You're like your week is done. You're gonna be all
Oh
set.
yeah, I'm going to
Last
be
week
in front.
was fast or slow. This is gonna be fast. You're gonna be into Saturday and like tomorrow.
I'm gonna be in front of a screen constantly. Well, from here until probably the end of the year, because and then some TV. The Voice is premiering
Ah,
coming up, and what we ought to do is we ought to start like doing a quick review on that because I know music's such a big deal to me, and I love those music
yeah.
competition shows.
We like
Um,
this. We'll have our text back and forth about them, right?
yeah, so we'll do a little recap of that too. I want to say it might be it's in the next couple weeks. So yeah, we'll do that, and keep an ear out, everyone, for dates and times on our first live episode to be filmed down at the Oxford Community Center. And I just found out today that my interview with WHCP Radio here locally is going to be aired this Friday between 6:30 and 7 on 91.7 WHCP. So Val Cavallari asked me about the podcast, about the group, and how I came to start the group. So if you're kind of interested in that, I'll put up some social media links on that.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so we got some really cool stuff, some really cool guests coming up here in the next, well, from between now and the end of the year, actually. Um, yeah, so it's
Right, and
it's
we have our first tabling event.
our first tabling event will be
Wait
out. Go ahead, Kathy. You know more about it.
a date. September 21st.
Yep.
Ottawa Park in Easton, the Out of the Darkness Suicide Walk.
Yep.
So we will have a table there, our first official
Our,
tabling
our,
event.
our first tabling, Eastern Shore Talk podcast, will have a table. So,
A chance to
yeah,
talk to people about what the podcasts and
yep.
resources.
Cathy and or I, well, I will be there all the time. Cathy will be having multiple tables. She'll be scurrying around back and forth
Yeah.
between, but I'll be there answering questions and talking to people about.
And I think people will be those tables will probably be up at Ottawa maybe like 9:30 to 11:30 ish in the morning
Yep,
on the
very cool,
21st.
very cool, cool benefit. Um,
Bring
so yeah,
awareness
that's
to suicide prevention and education because we're coming into those months where we really talk about mental health and suicide prevention. So those are good months in my field of work to try to really help others feel
yeah,
better.
and it's exciting for me, and it's a great opportunity for me to be able to do this to serve in yet another way through our group and through the podcast, and yeah, to just talk about self care with people and how it could just be of help in just overall wellness in general. Um, so yeah, and then we'll do the other one. Our first one, well, our first live event will be at Oxford this month. But then we've also got another tabling event, October 19th. Um, yeah, we'll give you more info as that one gets closer. So yeah, we've got some tabling stuff and some live shows and some really really exciting stuff
We're
coming up
out in the community, right?
between yeah, but
Short talk
yep,
goes out in the community.
absolutely. Yeah, just stay tuned because we've got some really really cool stuff coming up. Some great guests that's going to
Yeah.
cover all kind of things, both in the self care world and the movie world. So we're very excited about things that are going to happen throughout the rest of this year. So
Well, I'm
we're
going to
excited.
have you see Beetlejuice before next podcast because there's no way you're going to come out and talk about that. If this is a competition, I have to also see it.
So you need to hurry up when you get off here. Go on the website and see if there's any seats available for Friday night. There was probably I want to say 25 or 30 left. There's 85 seats in that biggest theater.
How many? They're only putting it in one.
They're only putting it in one, but they're putting it in as of right now.
Maybe they should have to.
Um, and they may decide that it's necessary. But as of the other day, when I was checking the tickets to see how many people had bought tickets, there was just the one. But it's in the biggest of the six.
Are you
So,
going to be blasting Deo on your way up to the theater?
well, it'll be in my head. I'll be thinking about it. Like, oh, I'll be wondering when it's going to show up in the movie. Um, and then I'm going to like watching if there's any.
You going to give me the seat next to you?
Well, I will say this. Like, here's why I was trying to get you to buy. I buy the two tickets. Well, the two seats besides those seats were still available as the other day. So I'm thinking, man, Kathy and Marty ought to buy
Yeah. Then
those
you're
two.
still going to be like, "Don't talk to me." You're
But
going to
but
push.
there would still be a seat between us. So that would be my
Jay would be like,
compromise.
you could be shaking your head at me, putting a hand up, saying,
Yeah, that would be my compromise. That would be like having a pillow fort up in bed. That empty seat is the pillow fort. You can't. Nope, you can't go past that wall. I
"Oh my,
know. I know you and Marty know about pillow forts in bed.
heck yeah!" He didn't even see me. I got a hole for it. Oh my gosh!
But yeah, anyway, guys, just keep an ear out for new information on all kinds of stuff happening with Eastern Shore Talk podcast. Thanks for tuning in, and we will see you next time. Take care,
Bye.
guys.